I caught her cheating, but the worst part was who she was with. The moment I saw the message, my world came crashing down. My heart shattered. Everything I thought I knew was a lie. I had no idea what I was about to uncover. What happened next? I wasn't prepared for the truth. You won't believe who was behind it all. I didn't know exactly when things started to change. Maybe it was that night she came home late and said she had to go into the office unexpectedly. Maybe it was the way she started spending more time on her phone, acting all secretive. But I could feel something, an unease I couldn't shake. Her name's Emma. We'd been together for years, married for almost a decade. We had what people called the perfect life. A small house, decent jobs, and a comfortable routine. But then, the silence between us grew. She started going to the dentist more often, something she'd never liked. I didn't think much of it at first. But over time, she'd come home from these visits looking different. Too happy. Too relaxed. One day, she left her phone at home. I wasn't snooping, but when it buzzed, twice, I glanced at the screen. A message from Dr. Jacobs popped up. See you soon. Don't worry, I won't tell anyone about your little secret. I froze. Why would she have a secret with a dentist? I felt a sinking feeling in my stomach. Then came the second message. I've always wanted this, but I'm not sure we should keep going. You're married, after all. My heart raced. What was happening? I needed answers. But I couldn't confront her yet. I pretended nothing was wrong, but I knew I had to find out more. The next day, I checked her planner. There was a new dentist appointment, this time with Dr. Carter, not Jacobs. My mind was reeling. Something wasn't adding up. Then she texted. Just another checkup, nothing exciting. The lie was too smooth, too rehearsed. Later, I noticed a FaceTime call from Dr. Jacobs on her phone. That was it. I couldn't ignore it anymore. I had to find out the truth. I couldn't just sit there. I needed to know what was really happening. That night, after Emma left for work, I grabbed her phone. I told myself it was just a quick look, nothing too invasive. But as soon as I unlocked it, I found myself scrolling through messages that twisted my gut into knots. There was a thread with Dr. Jacobs. It wasn't much at first, just mundane messages about her appointments. But the last few, they were different. One said, I know it's risky, but when you're ready, we can meet again. I'll make sure you don't regret it. The words hit me like a punch to the chest. I felt the room spin. What was going on? Was this just a flirty exchange, or something much worse? I started pacing, holding her phone in my hand like it was an explosive. I texted her, trying to act casual, asking how the day had gone. Just to check up. She replied almost immediately, the same exact line she always used. But this time, it felt like a lie wrapped in a smile. I needed more. I couldn't confront her yet. Not until I had something solid. I went through her planner next, flipping through pages until I found it. Another dentist appointment, but this time, it was with Dr. Carter. Who was this guy? I thought, my pulse quickening. A different name? That couldn't be a coincidence. But there was no smoking gun, just bits and pieces of a story I wasn't ready to accept. I couldn't accuse her based on assumptions. No, I had to dig deeper. I needed proof. Then, as if to add salt to the wound, Emma texted me again that evening, telling me she'd be working late. She had a team dinner, she said. But something about the way she said it, so rehearsed, made me question everything. As I sat there, I realized I wasn't just doubting her anymore. I was sinking into something darker. But I couldn't stop. I had to know what was really going on. The following days felt like a blur. I kept telling myself I was overreacting, that maybe I was just stressed out. But every time I thought about it, the nagging suspicion wouldn't go away. It grew stronger, clawing at me, until I couldn't ignore it anymore. I needed more answers. I had to figure out exactly what was happening. One evening, Emma came home later than usual, looking more tired than I'd ever seen her. She barely said a word as she walked past me, her eyes glued to the floor. I watched her closely, but there was no guilt in her demeanor. Nothing. She went straight to the bedroom, shut the door behind her, and I heard the soft click of her phone buzzing on the nightstand. I froze. I hadn't planned it, but my feet moved on their own, and before I knew it, I was standing beside the bed, her phone in my hand. She hadn't locked it. My heart pounded as I opened the screen, half expecting to find nothing. But then I saw the message. You can't be with him anymore. You know I'm the one for you. Let's meet at 7. The words hit me like a freight train. I couldn't breathe, couldn't move. Dr. Jacobs. It was him again. She was meeting him. I didn't know what to think. Should I confront her now? Should I confront him? But I knew I needed to be smart about this. I left the phone where I found it, sat on the couch, and waited for her to come out. My mind raced. Was this an affair? Or was she just telling herself it wasn't? When she came out, her face looked tired, but she didn't seem to notice the storm brewing inside me. She asked if I was okay, but her tone was too casual, like she wasn't even aware that anything had changed. "I'm fine," I said, forcing a smile. "Just a bit of a headache." But inside, I was screaming. My wife, the woman I trusted, had been hiding something from me. She was meeting him again, and I knew I couldn't just let this go. That night, I couldn't sleep. Every time I closed my eyes, the message from Dr. Jacobs played over and over in my mind. "You can't be with him anymore. You know I'm the one for you." The more I thought about it, the angrier I became. How long had this been going on? Was I completely blind to everything happening under my nose? I knew I had to confront her, but I wasn't sure how. I couldn't just throw accusations without knowing the full story. I needed to keep my cool, even though my insides were screaming to burst out and demand answers. The next evening, as she came home, I acted like everything was normal. She didn't suspect a thing. We made dinner, ate together, and chatted about nothing in particular. But the entire time, I could feel the tension building inside me. After dinner, as we sat on the couch, I put my phone down and looked at her. "Emma," I said, my voice calm but firm, "I need to ask you something." She looked up, a slight frown forming. "What's wrong?" I took a deep breath. "Why is Dr. Jacobs texting you?" Her eyes widened, and for the first time in weeks, she didn't know what to say. The silence was deafening. "What? What do you mean?" she stammered. I pulled out her phone, showing her the messages. "You left your phone at home the other day. I saw the texts. Who is he? And why are you meeting him?" I watched her face turn pale, her lips trembling. She opened her mouth to speak, but faltered, unable to form words. I could see the guilt in her eyes, the cracks in her facade. Finally, after what felt like an eternity, she spoke. "It's not what you think," she whispered. "It's complicated." I didn't want to hear any more excuses. I was done pretending. "No, Emma. It's exactly what I think. You've been lying to me. About this, about him." She broke down then, her hands shaking as she tried to explain. But I couldn't hear it. The truth was staring me in the face. She had been seeing him for months, lying to me about everything. And I had been too blind to see it. The silence between us was unbearable. Emma sat across from me, tears streaming down her face, unable to meet my eyes. I couldn't believe what I was hearing, what I was seeing. "I didn't mean for it to happen," she finally said, her voice barely above a whisper. "It was just..." One thing led to another. I clenched my fists, the anger rising in my chest, but I forced myself to stay calm. I needed to know everything. "How long?" I asked, my voice tight. "How long has this been going on?" Her gaze dropped to the floor, and I could see the guilt, the shame, all over her face. "Since the beginning of the year," she confessed, her voice breaking. "I've been seeing him for months. But it wasn't supposed to go this far." My heart sank. My mind was a whirlwind of confusion and betrayal. Months? This wasn't a brief affair. This had been going on while I was right there, trusting her, living a lie. "Who is he?" I demanded. "Why didn't you tell me?" She hesitated, but then she spoke. "His name is Dr. Carter. He's a dentist. I met him at the office. At first, it was just friendly. But then, things changed." I couldn't wrap my mind around it. "So, you've been seeing him. Behind my back. And now you're telling me this." She nodded, still unable to look at me. "I'm sorry. I should have been honest with you. But I was scared. I didn't want to lose you." "Lose me?" I echoed, the hurt and betrayal hitting me like a wave. "You've already lost me. You just didn't know it yet." She reached for my hand, but I pulled away, feeling the distance between us grow wider than ever. "I was going to end it," she said quickly. "I swear." But I kept making excuses, and I didn't know how to fix it. I stood up, pacing around the room, my mind reeling. It was like I was watching a nightmare unfold, and I was powerless to stop it. Dr. Carter. That name felt like it was burning in my chest. But there was still something nagging at me. "Why didn't you tell me about him? Why hide it?" "I didn't want you to know," she said, looking up at me, her eyes filled with sorrow. "I didn't want to hurt you. I didn't want to lose everything we've built." But the truth was, she already had. Her words felt like poison in my ears. I stood there, staring at her as she sobbed on the couch, pleading for forgiveness. I couldn't believe it. I'd always believed in us, in her. And now everything was shattered. I wanted to scream, to lash out, but I held myself back. I couldn't let her see how deeply this had cut. I had to think, had to process this betrayal, this lie that had been building for months. Dr. Carter, I thought again. He had taken everything I trusted, everything we had built, and shattered it. I don't know what to do anymore, Emma said, her voice trembling. I messed up. I know I did. But I love you. I've always loved you. Please don't let this ruin us. Her words felt empty. They didn't mean anything anymore. I didn't know if I could ever trust her again. The weight of everything hit me all at once, and I felt paralyzed. How could she do this to me? I don't even know who you are anymore, I whispered, more to myself than to her. She reached out again, but I stepped back. No, I said, my voice cold. You crossed a line, Emma. You don't get to take it back just because you're sorry now. She begged me to stay, but I couldn't. I needed space. I needed time to figure out what the hell I was supposed to do next. I couldn't look at her anymore, not with all the lies swirling in my head. I grabbed my keys and headed for the door. Emma didn't try to stop me this time. I could hear her sobbing behind me, but I couldn't bring myself to turn around. The night I left, I didn't know where I was going. I just drove. My hands gripped the steering wheel as I tried to make sense of everything. Emma's face kept flashing in my mind. The tears, the guilt, the desperation in her voice. She'd ruined everything. And now here I was, in a car, alone, not knowing what my next step should be. I pulled into a parking lot of a 24-hour diner and sat there for a long time, my thoughts spinning. I knew I couldn't go back to that house, not yet. Not until I could breathe again. I had to process everything she'd told me, everything I'd discovered. It was hours before I finally found the strength to check my phone. I had a few missed calls, mostly from Emma, but one was from my best friend, Mike. I hesitated, but then decided to call him back. He needed to know what happened. I needed someone to talk to. Hey man, Mike answered, his voice filled with concern. You okay? I've been trying to reach you all night. I let out a long breath, my voice shaky as I told him everything. The affair, the lies. Dr. Carter. His silence on the other end was heavy. Jesus, man, Mike finally said. I don't even know what to say. That's rough. But you need to think about what you want. Don't make any decisions when you're like this. I knew he was right. I couldn't make any big choices in this emotional state. But the truth was, I wasn't sure what I wanted anymore. The betrayal felt like a weight on my chest that I couldn't shake. I spent the next few days staying at a friend's place, trying to put some distance between myself and Emma. She kept calling, texting, but I ignored it. I wasn't ready to hear her voice. Not yet. Days turned into weeks, and I couldn't shake the feeling that I was slipping further from her. I wasn't angry anymore, just numb. The anger had been replaced by exhaustion, an emotional drain that left me questioning everything. Then came the message. Emma had sent me an ultimatum. We need to talk. You owe me that much. I sat there staring at her message. You owe me that much, she wrote. I could feel the weight of her words, the desperation behind them. What did I owe her? A second chance? A conversation that would fix what she'd broken? I didn't respond right away. Instead, I left my phone on the table and took a walk around the block, trying to clear my head. But nothing felt clear. I wasn't sure if I wanted to hear her out. Part of me was still furious, but another part, the part that had spent years with her, wanted to know if there was anything left to salvage. After a long walk, I came back to my friend's apartment, grabbed the phone, and called her. Emma, I said, my voice flat. We need to talk, but it has to be in person. No more messages. There was a long pause before she responded. I understand. I need you to hear me out. When I agreed to meet, I felt a pit in my stomach. Part of me wasn't ready, but I knew deep down that this moment would either make or break us. That night, we met at a small cafe. She was already sitting at a table when I walked in. Her eyes were red from crying, but she looked more composed than I expected. She didn't say anything when I sat down, but her eyes pleaded with me to listen. I know I've ruined everything, she started, her voice low. But I swear to you, it was never about not loving you. It wasn't about anything other than me. I was lost, and I didn't know how to find my way back to you. I watched her, trying to understand what she was saying. She sounded so broken, so sorry, but it didn't change what she'd done. I don't know if I can forgive you for this, Emma, I said, keeping my voice steady. I don't even know if I can trust you anymore. Her face crumpled at my words, and she reached for my hand. Please, she whispered. I'll do anything. Please don't give up on us. I pulled my hand away, the words feeling like a weight on my chest. I don't know if I can go back to the way things were, I said, each word feeling like it was tearing me apart. But I need time. Time to figure out if I even want to. She nodded, wiping away a tear. I'll give you all the time you need. The days after that meeting were the hardest. Emma gave me the space I needed, but I could feel her presence in everything I did. Her empty side of the bed, the quiet dinners we used to share, the silence that hung between us like a thick fog. I kept replaying the words she had said that night. I'll do anything. But what did anything even mean? Could anything undo the months of deceit, the betrayal I felt in every part of my body? I didn't know. I wanted to believe her, but part of me wondered if I was just holding on to the past, a past that had now crumbled. I tried to distract myself. I threw myself into work, spent time with friends, and even went back to the gym, trying to rebuild the life that Emma and I had shared, but without her. Yet, no matter how hard I tried, her absence loomed over me, like a shadow I couldn't escape. A week passed, and Emma didn't text, didn't call. I knew she was giving me the space I had asked for, but that didn't make it any easier. Every time I looked at my phone, I felt a wave of guilt wash over me for not responding to her, for not telling her what I was thinking, what I was feeling. I couldn't decide if I was punishing her, or if I was punishing myself for even considering the possibility of forgiving her. Then, out of nowhere, I received a text from Dr. Carter. My heart stopped. I stared at the message for a few moments, unsure of what to do. I wasn't sure if I had the right to open it, but curiosity got the best of me. It was short. I can't do this anymore. I can't be the secret. I think it's time we both let go. I blinked, reading the words again. Let go. That was it. No explanation. No more promises. No more we'll figure it out. It was over. But what did this mean for me? Was Emma ready to move on? Or was Dr. Carter just walking away because it was too much? I didn't know. Dr. Carter's message hung in the air like a challenge I wasn't ready for. I hadn't expected him to just walk away, to end things so abruptly. It almost felt like the weight of his departure was a sign that Emma's affair wasn't as meaningful as I'd feared. But was it? Was this truly over? Or was she just too scared to continue with him after everything came to light? The questions piled up. The more I thought about it, the more I realized I had no idea where I stood with her. She had betrayed me, yes, but there was still a part of me that wanted to understand. To know if she regretted what she did, or if she was simply trying to escape the consequences. I thought about calling her, asking her what this meant, but I couldn't bring myself to do it. Instead, I buried myself in work for a few more days, trying to ignore the turmoil inside. But it wasn't working. I missed her, in a way that was impossible to ignore. Then, on the fourth day after Dr. Carter's message, Emma showed up at my door. No call, no text. She was just standing there, looking like the woman I had loved for so long, but also a stranger. She opened her mouth, but nothing came out at first. Finally, she spoke. I got your message from Dr. Carter. I nodded, unsure how to respond. Yeah, he ended it. Told me he couldn't keep being a secret. Her eyes softened, and she stepped closer. I'm so sorry, she whispered. I don't even know how to explain it. I've been a fool. I know, I said quietly. You've hurt me in a way I didn't think was possible. But, I don't know, Emma. I can't just forget it. Her face crumpled with emotion, but I wasn't sure if I was ready for what she was about to say next. I don't want to lose you, she said, her voice trembling. I'll do anything, just please don't walk away from us. I closed my eyes for a moment, taking in the weight of her words. The air between us felt heavy, thick with unspoken feelings. I needed time, but it wasn't just time to think about whether I could forgive her. It was time to understand whether I wanted to. Her words hung in the air, waiting for an answer. Please don't walk away from us, Emma said again, her voice breaking as she stepped closer, hoping I would soften. I looked at her, the woman I had once loved with all my heart, the woman who had betrayed me in ways I couldn't yet fully comprehend. She was right there, asking for forgiveness, for a second chance, but it felt like there was a distance between us that couldn't be closed with just a few words. I don't know if I can, I said, my voice surprisingly steady despite the storm raging inside me. I don't know if I can ever trust you the way I used to. I don't know if I can forget what you did. She flinched at my words, but I couldn't stop. I had to say it. I had to be honest with myself and with her. This isn't just about the affair. It's about everything that led up to it. The lies, the secrets, the fact that you didn't feel like you could come to me when you were struggling. She reached for my hand, but I pulled it back, unsure if I was ready for any more contact. Emma, I don't know how to fix this. I don't know if it's even possible. The silence stretched between us. She looked like she was holding herself together, but her eyes were brimming with tears. I didn't mean for any of this to happen, she said softly. I'm not asking for us to go back to how things were. I know I can't undo the past, but I just want a chance to make things right, to show you that I'm still the woman you fell in love with. I wanted to believe her. God, I wanted to believe that we could fix this, that she could truly change. But the doubt was there, lingering in the back of my mind. Could we really go back to who we were? Or had everything been irrevocably broken? I took a deep breath and let the words come out before I could stop myself. I can't promise anything, Emma. I need time. Time to think. Time to figure out if I even want this anymore. Her face fell. I could see the hurt in her eyes, but also a flicker of understanding. I can't give you an answer either, she whispered. I need you to know I'm willing to do whatever it takes. I nodded, my heart heavy with the weight of everything. Then we'll take it one step at a time. As I watched her walk away, something shifted in me. I didn't know what the future held, but for the first time since this all started, I felt like maybe, just maybe, there was a glimmer of hope. Or maybe it was just the beginning of the end. The days following our conversation were a blur of conflicting emotions. Emma gave me the space I asked for, but it wasn't the kind of space that felt freeing. Instead, it felt suffocating. Every time I looked at her, every time I spoke to her, I couldn't escape the lingering doubts. The trust had been shattered, and no matter how much she begged for a second chance, I couldn't forget what she had done. I kept telling myself that time would help, that maybe, in time, I would find a way to forgive her. But the more I tried to push the thoughts of her betrayal out of my mind, the more they came rushing back. Every little detail haunted me. The late nights, the secret messages, the lies. She had been so good at hiding it all, making me believe everything was fine. But it wasn't. One evening, I found myself sitting in our living room, staring at the empty space where she should have been. The house felt so quiet now, so different. I was used to hearing her laugh, the sound of her moving about, but now there was only silence. And that silence was heavy, a constant reminder of everything that had been broken. When she finally came home, she looked at me with those hopeful eyes, waiting for me to say something, anything. But I couldn't bring myself to speak. Do you want to talk about it? She asked gently, her voice so soft, so fragile. I shook my head. I don't know what to say. I don't even know what I'm feeling right now. She sat down beside me, her presence comforting yet unsettling. I just want to make things right, no matter how long it takes, she said, her voice trembling. I know I've hurt you. I can't take that back, but I want to prove to you that I'm not the person I was. I wanted to believe her. I wanted to tell her that I was ready to forgive her, that we could move forward together. But every time I tried, the words stuck in my throat. I'm not sure if I can forgive you, Emma, I whispered, the weight of it sinking in. Not yet. She nodded, tears welling up in her eyes. I know, and I'm not asking you to. I just want a chance. And that was the hardest part, to see her so broken, so desperate, knowing that no matter how much she wanted to fix it, there was no quick fix for what had happened. The days dragged on in a haze of uncertainty. I could feel myself distancing from Emma even more, but I wasn't sure if it was because of her betrayal or because I was too afraid to face the truth, that maybe I didn't want to try anymore. Every time she spoke, every time she tried to apologize or explain, I was reminded of the distance between us. It wasn't just the affair that had torn us apart. It was the realization that the trust I'd built with her had been shattered so easily. And no matter how much she said she was sorry, I wasn't sure if I could rebuild that trust. I spent hours thinking about it, about the future, about whether I could ever forgive her, about what life might look like without her. I was torn between the love we had once shared and the betrayal that now defined our relationship. One afternoon, I found myself sitting alone in the park, thinking back on the moments we used to share, the simple ones, the ones that had felt effortless. I missed those moments. I missed the feeling of being connected to her, of knowing we had each other's backs. But now it felt like a lie, a beautiful lie that had been exposed. That evening, Emma sat beside me in the living room, her hands clasped nervously. "I've been thinking," she said, her voice quiet. "I don't want to lose you. And I understand if you need time to figure things out, but I can't keep living like this. I can't keep waiting for something that might never happen." I looked at her, seeing the hurt in her eyes, but also the resignation. She was ready to move on, ready to accept whatever was coming, even if it meant letting go of us. "I don't know what I want," I confessed, my voice breaking. "I don't know if I can ever look at you the same way again. I want to believe you. I want to think that we can fix this. But I don't know if I'm strong enough to forgive you." She didn't cry this time. Instead, she just nodded slowly, her expression unreadable. "I understand," she whispered, "and I'll give you all the time you need." But as she left the room, I couldn't help but feel the coldness of finality settling in. There was a part of me that still wanted to hold on, but I also knew that no matter how much time passed, things might never be the same. The more time passed, the clearer it became. I wasn't ready to forgive her. I kept telling myself that I needed more time, that I needed to figure things out, but deep down I knew the truth. The trust that had once been the foundation of our relationship had crumbled. Every time I looked at Emma, I saw the woman who had betrayed me. The love I'd felt for her felt like it belonged to someone else. I tried to pretend things were normal. I forced myself to go through the motions of daily life: work, grocery shopping, cleaning. But every time I saw her, every time we shared a meal, I couldn't shake the feeling that something was missing, that the connection we once had was no longer there. Then came the night when I couldn't take it anymore. I came home late from work, exhausted and drained, and found Emma sitting on the couch. She looked at me with those eyes, those hopeful, desperate eyes, and for a moment, I almost wanted to give in. But I knew I couldn't. "I need to talk to you," I said, my voice steady but firm. She looked up, her heart in her eyes. "What's wrong? You've been distant for days." I sat down across from her, taking a deep breath. "I can't do this anymore, Emma," I said. "I can't keep pretending like everything's okay when it's not. I can't keep living in this limbo. I don't think I can ever forgive you for what happened." Her face crumpled, and for the first time in weeks, I saw her vulnerability, the raw emotion that had been buried beneath the facade she'd been putting on. "I never wanted to hurt you," she whispered, her voice breaking. "I know I've made mistakes, but I love you. I'll do anything to make it right." "I don't know if I can believe that anymore," I replied, my throat tightening. "I don't know if I can love you the way I did." She reached out to me, but I pulled away, the distance between us feeling like a chasm. "I think we've reached the end of the road, Emma," I said quietly. "I think we've run out of time." Her eyes welled with tears, but she didn't say anything. She didn't try to stop me, because deep down, I think she knew it was over too. I stood up, the weight of the decision crushing me. "I think it's time for us to go our separate ways." The days that followed were a blur of numbness. I moved through them mechanically, sorting out the last of the details of our life together: the lease, the bills, the belongings. The house, once filled with laughter and warmth, now felt like an empty shell, a reminder of everything that had been lost. Emma gave me the space I had asked for. She didn't fight me. She didn't beg for my forgiveness anymore. Instead, she seemed to accept the inevitable, the fracture that had been too deep to repair. The night before I was supposed to leave, I found myself standing in front of the bedroom mirror, staring at my reflection. I barely recognized the man who stared back at me. How had I gotten here? How had we gotten here? I wondered if I was making the right choice, if there was a chance we could rebuild. But every time I closed my eyes, I remembered the betrayal, the messages, the lies, and I realized that part of me had already walked away. When I went downstairs, Emma was sitting in the living room, waiting for me. Her eyes were tired, like she had been up all night thinking, like I had been. "I'm leaving tomorrow," I said quietly, unable to meet her gaze. She nodded, her face pale. "I know. I've been expecting it." "I'm sorry it ended like this," I said, my voice hoarse. "But I can't keep living in this limbo. I need to move on." Emma didn't say anything for a long time. She just looked at me with that deep sadness in her eyes, like she was saying goodbye, even though she hadn't said the words. "I'll always love you," she whispered finally. "I just wish we had more time. I wish I could have been the woman you deserved." I wanted to say something, anything, to make this easier. But I didn't have the words. I turned to leave, but I stopped at the door. "Goodbye, Emma." The words felt like a weight on my chest, as if they would shatter everything we had left. But they were the only words I could say. As I walked out the door and into the night, I knew I was leaving behind a part of myself, a part that would never fully heal. But it was the only way forward. And as the door closed behind me, I realized that maybe, just maybe, I was finally free.